Hey y'all, and welcome to the Truthfully Stew podcast. I'm your host, Sheena Steward. And if you're not new to this, but true to this, you know me from my blog, Love at Any Stage. I decided to transition from blogging to podcasting due to my desire to have a more genuine connection with my audience. And your girl loves to talk. We will have heartfelt, unfiltered conversations about love, life, feelings, and everything in between. So, relax, because it's time to get truthful. In 2004, my cousin suggested I watch a movie called Wicker Park. Honestly, I've forgotten what the movie was about. I do remember it starred Josh Hartnett. Yo, what happened to that dude? But from what I do recall, it was a classic case of boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy runs dramatically through the airport to get girl back. I mean, it was nothing to write home about. So, why did I start the podcast off by talking about a subpar movie from the early 2000s? Well, at the end of the movie, Josh, child, I don't remember his character's name, okay? All right, so Josh runs through the airport to get his girl. The scene was corny, but I was captivated by the song in the background. It came in with such haunting notes, and the first line got me hook, line, and sinker. With such raspiness in his voice, I heard a man sing, "Come up to meet you, tell you I'm sorry. You don't know how lovely you are." I immediately ran upstairs and Googled the lyrics on the computer. As I said, it was 2004, so we hadn't quite met the stage of Googling from our phone. But I discovered the song was called "The Scientist" by Coldplay. I was visiting my family in Minnesota, so I grabbed my mom's keys and drove to Target in the snow to get Coldplay's CD titled "A Rush of Blood to the Head." This day was the first session in a class called "The Things Chris Martin Taught Me." For those of you who don't know, Chris Martin is the lead singer for Coldplay. After fighting through the packaging of the CD, by the way, I don't miss that struggle. I realized the album was released in 2002. I wondered how the heck I had never heard of Coldplay and their second album dropped 2 years ago. I did what most of us did in those days. I opened the book to see if there are lyrics inside. Ironically, I just picked up my phone to see if that CD had lyrics, and I still don't know the answer. But what I do know is that day made me a fan of Coldplay, and more specifically, the emotions I felt when Chris sang. The 3 songs I connected with the most on that CD were "The Scientist," "In My Place," and "Warning Signs." So, in this episode, we'll discuss 3 life lessons Chris Martin taught me. I think it's only fitting that Chris's first life lesson is brought to you from "The Scientist." As I just said, it's from the album "A Rush of Blood to the Head," which was released in 2002. For the sake of the podcast, I'll focus on the following lyrics. "Tell me you love me, come back and haunt me, oh, and I'll rush back to the start. Running in circles, chasing tails, coming back as we are." Yeah. Those lyrics have been stuck with me since that snowy day in 2004. Over the years, this song has taught me life lessons about relationship. Anthony and I have been married for 6 years and been through plenty of life lessons together. What I do know is both of us desire to be loved by the other and to also be told that we are loved. Sometimes when things get murky, hey 2020, you have to rush back to the start, aka the foundation. Basically, making sure the relationship is built on sturdy grounds. But oftentimes we do that thing that looks good but doesn't have any substance. Those times when you find yourself just going through the motion, or as Chris taught me, we're running in circles, chasing tails, coming back as we are. Chris, why you call me out like that, my dude? So, How do we turn off autopilot and get back to the sturdy foundation? Honestly, that's a case-by-case solution. For us, it started with communication and creativity. We sat down and figured out where communication was lacking or where it was untruthful, meaning not being honest when expressing our emotions and mental state. Once we weeded out the running in circles type of communication, we were able to get back to our sturdy foundation. Listen, we got really creative. We had monthly date nights with a different themed destination. We hired an event planner. Yeah, you heard me. I said creative. We hired an event planner that transformed our bonus room into places like Paris and Cuba. We were both invested in planning of those date nights, which in turn brought us closer and made those in-home date nights feel very authentic and intentional and fun. We had a great time pretending we were in different locations and experiencing their culture. So, if you ever find yourself running in circles, figure out how to get back to your sturdy foundation. Lesson 2 is brought to you from the 2011 Coldplay hit, Paradise. I remember hearing Paradise for the first time and being in love with the opening beats of the song. Chris starts off by singing, "When she was just a girl, she expected the world, but it flew away from her reach. So she ran away in her sleep and dreamed of paradise every time she closed her eyes." This lesson is for the people like me that are dreamers. More specifically, the dreamers with no execution. I've been creative for as long as I can remember. I just told you about the destination-themed date nights. But when we were dating, I did 14 days of love for Valentine's Day. Each day had a different word, song, and activity associated with it. My favorite was day 13. I mailed an invitation to Anthony's house and invited him to a night of dancing. When he arrived at my apartment, I let him know, hey, my apartment is the destination for the night of dancing. Another time, I decorated the gazebo at my apartment complex, hired a chef, we got all dressed up and had a candlelight dinner in the gazebo. I know you're thinking, Sheena, you dreamed up those concepts and executed. Yes, those are small ideas and easy for me to execute. Where I trip up is having an idea for a creative project or event, and it ends up living in my notes app. So, how do you wake up from dreaming and execute? For me, it was outsourcing certain tasks. I found someone that could help me craft this podcast from the ground up. I needed someone that was strong in my weak areas. Whew, y'all, I'm not organized, just not. But Monique has motivated me, guided me, and pushed me during this podcast process. Although I have other creative goals I want to reach, I'm taking the time to celebrate this win and use it as motivation to wake up from dreaming sometimes and become a doer. The final Chris Martin life lesson is brought to you by one of my favorite Coldplay songs. It's Fix You, which was on the album X and Y, released in 2005. The lyric for this lesson is, when you try your best, but you don't succeed. When you get what you want, but not what you need. When you feel so tired, but you can't sleep. Stuck in reverse. Whew, that's why it's one of my favorites. So, one day I'll do a podcast on the year 2010. The more I think about that year, the more I acknowledge it was a very pivotal one for me. Since I'm not ready to talk about that year in depth, this lesson will be a to be continued. What I do feel comfortable sharing is trying, and I mean trying to become a better version of me through starting therapy that year. But not realizing that I would have to keep trying in order to continue my healing journey for a lot of heavy things. When the results didn't happen fast enough, I resorted back to pursuing things I wanted, but were not what I needed. And, as Chris taught me, that happens when you're stuck in reverse. I was so afraid of fully immersing myself in my self-discovery journey that I clung on to something that no longer served me. And for years, it had me stuck in reverse in many aspects of my life. When I was blogging frequently, I'd always say, I only share things that are currently in a healthy place. I think the more I talk about this, I realize I'm not in an unhealthy place, but not quite at the level to fully share. So this lesson is open-ended, and we'll circle back to it at a later date. But remember to evaluate if something is what you want or actually what you need. Chris, my dude, my boy. I'm so thankful that I watched that subpar movie back in late 2004 because it helped me enroll in the class of The Things Chris Martin Taught Me. Thank you for listening and sharing this space with me. If you connected with anything I said, please be sure to comment, review, and tell a friend. And remember, stay truthful.
Bye-bye. Meow. Bye-bye.